Yeah. So as I was saying, we are about 180 years of total aviation experience lined up for you today. Myself, about 33 years. Captain Omar is about 30, 32 years. And then we have Captain Crystal. She's about 30 years. Mr. Jayavant, he is about 28 years. Mehul Shukla, he's 30 years. And Amit, Mr. Amit Kharbanda, he's also 30 years. So if you add it up, it all comes to about 180 years of aviation experience. Quite a bit. But together, we all started together nearly 30 years, 33 years back. And so we kind of have the same experience. So I spoke with a few of you yesterday, and what I understand is everybody's a little concerned about how aviation is being impacted by COVID. So we'll come to that, and let me start with first introducing myself. My name is Rajesh Narang. I'm a Airbus 330 captain and a trainer and a designated examiner. I've been flying jets since 1992, all sort of planes, 737 200s, then 300, 400, 500, 700, 800, 900, and then the Airbus 330s. And I was with Jet Airways till they shut down. And then I joined Sri Lankan Airlines. And because of the pandemic, I have been put on long leave, which has been turned into, maybe termination very soon. But things will get better. And we will talk about it as we go along. Today, the first speaker that I have for you is Captain Omar Sikka. Now, Captain Omar Sikka is flying for a major airline, one of the biggest airlines in the world today, as a Boeing 777 captain. And he has actually just landed in Miami. He's done a long flight. I don't know how many hours it was, maybe about 12 hours or so. He'll tell you exactly. And he has actually stayed up, and he was very keen to speak with all of you. And in fact, I wasn't sure whether he will be up to it after such a long flight, but he assured me, and here he is. He's looking fresher than most of us, and I'm sure he's keen to speak to you all. So I leave the floor to Captain Omar. You brought up some very valuable points. I heard you say the best way to learn is to teach. Yes, that is true. And if you were to teach, you cannot stop learning. I'm sure you agree, and that is why you have to keep your standards up and never go below standard. And you said that one has to keep studying. We have our 6 monthly checks, and we have our medicals, and also we are tested on a daily basis. No, not thoroughly, thankfully, of course, but we are tested. Like in the sense, we are operating a machine with so many people on board. We cannot fail. For that, you need to be at your best. So if you are trying to be at your best, well, you would be somewhere about 80%. Thank you very much, Captain Omar. Good question you asked. Regulation, lifestyle, very good question. Pilot is regulated from all sides, actually, from his company regulations, the, the government regulations, the airspace that he flies in, those regulations. There are so many of them. And fitness, well, it's always good to be fit, isn't it? So that always helps. And here it carries the additional importance of your job depends on it. So one does take care of themselves. Most cases, of course. While we are a student, uh, we might not be very familiar with some terms that all of us are speaking. But I assure you guys that if you, and I wish that you do, continue in this field, these terms that you're hearing today will be commonplace for you. It will be something that you will be uh, exposed to on a daily basis. And like Amit rightly said, see the episodes of air crash investigations. Best learnings that I've had uh, are from learning from unfortunate mistakes that have occurred. and they keep occurring. And the only way that the Murphy's law, anything that goes wrong can go wrong, will go wrong. Well, it's true, isn't it? You make the best airplane, and we will unfortunately find a flaw in a very tragic manner. So, but having said that, these things have these you know methods of learning have saved so many lives. It is not even funny. I actually like the idea of group studies. This has worked well for me when I was appearing for my ATPL papers way back in 1994. And we got together a group of maybe 5 or 6 of us, and we studied very well, and we all passed. And it would have been very difficult to do it alone. You know, ask, asking questions of each other. You know, it triggers certain areas of your brains, and maybe you have studied something and not paid attention to something else, and maybe your friend has studied something else, and they ask you questions on those sides. That really works well. I actually appreciate that very much. And as Mehul said, seek knowledge. Knowledge is knowing what you don't know. Like Captain Omar, I myself have been a trainer since 2001 or 2002. I forget the year also now. And one thing that is common in this discipline in aviation, it could be air traffic control, it could be engineering, it could be becoming a pilot, even cabin crew. One has to continually keep updating yourself. Uh, you never know when you're called upon to use that knowledge. And I believe that question is asked that since planes are grounded for the last 8, 9 months, and there have been a few incidents, accidents, unfortunately. Yeah, an accident does not take place because of one single error. It involves a lot of things before an accident takes place. And there's something called as root cause analysis that some of us are trained investigators also. So that is going into depth of it, but there are always more than one reason why an airplane crashes. Uh, and Yeah, it could be a malfunction of a system. But that happens so many times. And planes don't fall off the sky all the time. They do sometimes. So what has gone wrong there is it, there are so many safety checks and balances in place, and it has slipped through that. You can call it the Swiss cheese model. Study about it, and a good point brought up here. When we started our aviation careers, we had no help. Today, I see 77 people have logged in. Maybe 100 people logged in, logged off. There were 100 sometime back. So all of you are resources to each other also. You have your wonderful university. You have people like us coming and speaking with you, and information is available to you at the fingertip. You can use your phone, Google it, and everything is there. Uh, but at the same time, you need to seek the information. If you don't seek the information, it won't come to you. Everything National Geographic was brought up by Mr. Amit Kharbanda, and wonderfully that is. I myself watch it. I still watch it. I'm in my 33rd year in aviation. There is a book called Fly the Wing, which is kept next to my bed. I don't read it every day. Sorry, I don't read it every day. But it is there, and I do pick it up once in a while, and I'll go through a chapter. I'll leaf through it, and it reminds me of something I'd read long back, and that will trigger something else. And before I know it, I've read half the book again. You know, so it's very important. Uh, I believe you people had some questions for us. I'm happy to answer them now at this stage. If Sindhu or someone wants to ask,
Yeah, I have a question for you, Captain. Hello.
yeah, yes,
Yeah. Hi. My name is Hans. I'm representing Airman Flight Training. We have a flying school in Los Angeles, California. And
hi Hans.
yeah, yeah. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us today for this topic.
Yes. So a lot of Indian students who come to us and have done their flight training with us, so they have a very lucrative question that after finishing our flight training from the USA, coming back to India, converting their license. So which type rating should they go for? If all the airlines are hiring, if it's Indigo and Vistara and Air India, should they go for a Boeing 737 or a Airbus 320? So, what would you suggest that you have blown a lot of aircraft with so many experience? What would you suggest a student to get his type rating on? Because every type rating is different amount of investment from the student's perspective and their parents as well.
That's correct. You know, the only advice I have on this is actually I should tell you, Hans, that I started flying before I became 18 years old, and and myself and Captain Omar, who was here first, we are the first people in the country, all maybe amongst the first, to go for a type rating.
Oh
Right.
wow!
Before that, there were only two airlines in the country to speak of: Air India and Indian Airlines,
Right,
and they had their in-house training, and they wouldn't hire that easily. They would hire once in 2 years, and handful would get employed, with all the quotas and everything put together. We were the first ones to go for a type rating. So what did we do? We interviewed for an airline, upcoming airline, and we took a letter of intent of employment from them.
right,
And only then did we go for a type rating, right? So
right,
the best answer, this is the best answer, is to go for a type rating only when you have a letter of intent from an employer. Otherwise, you're gambling. For example, you do a 320 type rating and say SpiceJet calls you up for a 737. They give you the
right.
job. You got the job. But they say nowadays I've heard this, that you got to pay for your endorsement. So now you go
Right.
and get a Boeing 737 type rating if you have the money and the resources to do it. So you got two type ratings, using only one of them, right? Now, maybe this is not the popular answer, but this is the answer. Letter
Yeah,
of intent,
I believe this is the safest.
yes, that's how. Otherwise, you're gambling. And it might work, it might not work. I'm not sure. No,
Right.
it's a 50-50 chance. And as
Yeah.
a pilot, I don't believe in 50-50 chances.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Again right away. Do not wait. You stand up again and you move forward, and it will happen. That's my answer. Because yeah, of course, a viewer, like when you arrive, it's a radial and ADF is like what this instructor is talking about. It's like in three-dimension aircraft. And yes, of course, when you start the IFR, it's difficult. I mean, instrument rating, it's difficult. Every time you learn something, it's difficult. But that's the beauty of it. It's learning. You learn a new sport. The fun of it is to learn. Once you get it, there's like, oof, done with it. What's next? And it's always what's next. And it's happened with your life as well. In your life, okay, married. What's next? Children. So I'm sorry. So let's get back to the aviation, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're
you
welcome.
know, guys. I, if you remember, all the aviators, engineers, all of them, I call them all aviators because they are aviators. The common thing from Captain Omar right up to Captain Christel has been dedication. And another thing that when I asked her what was difficult in airline flying, she said managing the time, resting, because it is hard for the body. So Joshua had asked this question, and I will just review it again. To maintain a higher level of fitness, as As you embark on this journey, even if you're an engineer, you need to be fit. You're working in harsh conditions. You're working outdoors. You're working with your hands at times. You need strength in your arms, and the shifts are long. They're hard at times. So yeah, maintain a high degree of fitness, dedication, and what she said, wonderful journey. It's fantastic is what the word she used. And I agree with her. And what she talks about the 4 bars on the shoulder, I think they get engraved. They, but the first time you wear it, it gets engraved. Now, some people have the 5th bar, which is called the chip on the shoulder. Don't get that. Have a nice attitude.
So if you were to hire a pilot for your company, then what are the qualities would you look from the candidate?
Right. So, actually, this was my job. I have hired about 300 to 400 pilots for Jet Airways in the past, and uh, and then I had to train them. So, and then I had to make sure I had the trainers to train them. So that was my job. So, the first thing is attitude, right? The correct attitude, because I know if I was to ask you technical questions, yeah, everybody is the same. They can all answer the question. Uh, but a person with the correct attitude gets hired first, right? Uh, by attitude, by correct attitude, what do I mean? Isn't it? We all know what an attitude is. We all know when somebody walks into a room with a bad attitude, right? So this attitude should be that this person is capable, trainable, and will we enjoy flying with him, right? And if he doesn't know something, will he accept the training, right? And you'll be surprised as so many people do not accept the training. They go through the training, they pass the training, but they don't accept it. What separates is attitude. So, and guys, this is the time to have a positive attitude, a great attitude. It starts from here. You just can't switch it on 5 minutes before an interview. It, we can read it. The moment you walk into the door, you sit down, it shows. And yes, one more thing I must tell you that you must be confident. You must you must show that you're confident. Because if you show that everybody is scared, we know that, we understand that. When you walk into a room, there's 3, 4 guys staring at you, looking at you, checking your paperwork, asking you questions. So we know that you are scared. But if you can show that confidence between all that, so you get hired first. And confidence stands on what? Hard work, preparation, health and fitness, definitely, discipline, you know, and great attitude. I hope that answers your question.
With your experience, you would have seen a lot of situations that requires critical decision making in flight to keep the aircraft safe. Right? Could you please share some of those incidents you handled to keep aircraft and passengers safe? Could you tell one incident when was it?
It's a good question. I'll tell Captain Crystal if she wants to share something.
No, we all have stories. You can have a cafe and can talk for hours about experience. That's a very good question, and we can stay hours and weeks just together talking about this. But I'm sure Captain Narang has more experience than I do.
Uh, there, uh, there is hardly any emergency that I have not seen. I can't recall anything that has not happened. Um, but if you do a job for as long as we have done it, or 30 some years, so you're bound to see a few. I've had engine failures. I've had smoke. I've had bomb threats. I have had weather-related diversions, wind shears, microburst. I don't know whether you're familiar with these terms. And I've had everything. Uh, the one I will talk about is for something that I was not prepared for. Now, aircraft is pressurized. It's a pressurized tube, right? And because it is pressurized, we can take it up to 37, 40,000, 45,000 feet. And all my life, I prepared myself for this pressurization failure as a pilot. But it happened to me one day, but as a passenger. It did not happen to me as a pilot. So I prepared for it all my life as a pilot. And now here I am sitting in a aircraft, having going to Bangkok, I think, and having actually a idli sambar. And as I turned around and asked for an extra portion of chutney, I see the mask drop in front of me. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. That, something that I've trained for, trained people and practiced for hours and hours and hours from a cockpit point of view is happening to me from a passenger point of view. Now, can you imagine that? So most of the time, when we are sitting in an airplane, while the cabin crew is going around and announcing things, "Kripya dhyan dijiye," and look at me, and they do the demo. We don't look at them. We do what we are doing. We're looking at our messages. We are talking to our fellow passengers. So this is what happened with my fellow passengers. They were busy making plans. Nobody saw the demo. So when finally I was on the third row in the business class, there were 3 rows. Finally, when the mask dropped, I knew what to do. I picked up the mask, I pulled it down, and I wore it. But the people around me did not know to do that. They just wore the mask. And guess what? No oxygen because you got to pull it down.
Pull it down
And
first.
and now what happens to them? Panic takes over. Can you imagine wearing a mask? Now the aircraft is not stationary because now the pilot has to start descent, an emergency descent. So and they don't have time, so they come very fast, wearing their mask, and they say something which sounds like basically he says emergency descent, and they turn the airplane. So you're sitting like this, and suddenly you're like this. So now people they wear the mask and they can't breathe. Can you imagine the panic? So they all panic. So I wore my mask and I helped my fellow passengers wear their masks. And the one row behind me was a family. Uh, there was a little girl on the lap of her father, and the child would not wear the mask. But if the father had heard the demo, where the cabin crew keeps telling us, first wear your mask, and then you will make your child or an infant or accompanied child wear a mask. But they didn't follow that. So the father was crying. And the useful consciousness is a few seconds only. After that, you lose consciousness. Yeah, at a high altitude. We were at 37,000 feet. So I got up with my mask because it goes up to a little distance behind my chair. They were right behind me. And I made the father wear the mask. As soon as the father wore the mask, the child saw that the father is wearing the mask, and now the child wore the mask. So they were all right. And once we leveled off, which would have been below 10,000 feet, because one of the regulations is that about 10,000 feet, everybody should wear a mask. Below 10,000 feet, you can remove your mask. So once we leveled off, which would have been below 10,000 feet, the cabin crew went to the flight deck, and when she returned from the flight deck, she said, "Prepare for landing. We are landing now." Now, having said that, it was an afternoon flight, and we were over water because we are over the Bay of Bengal going to Bangkok. So one fine man sitting in front of me opens his window, sees down, and all he sees is water. And before I can say one, two, three, he jumps out from a seat, comes in the middle of the aisle, faces all the passengers looking at him. This was a Boeing 737, and starts shouting, "We are landing on water! We are landing on water!" Now I got a little worried. I said, "What's going on? What does he know that I don't know? Are we landing on water?" So I got up immediately. I said, "Nothing like that has happened. The emergency part of this flight is over. The oxygen requirement is over. Of course, we are low, so we have to land somewhere, and we might be going to Yangon." And that's where we went. Finally. So to calm everybody down, I had to go to the flight deck because I was a part of the airline. and I spoke to the pilots. They asked if I can sit in the cockpit with them because I was their instructor once upon a time. So three of us sat down in the cockpit, and we made the passengers comfortable by our PA, by talks, and we followed the procedures, and we got this plane down to land in Yangon. This happened many years back. So this is what stands out. I was prepared for this emergency from a cockpit point of view, but not from a passenger point of view. So you never know how it comes up. I would say, keep this in mind. So learn about any emergency that you have from all aspects of it. Anything. It could be a daily thing in your house that you handle, a fire in your house, a short circuit in your house. Learn from all point of views. Was that interesting enough? I must be sleeping now because he's in Miami at about 2 o'clock in the night or so. Mr. Jayavant, I'll personally call and check on him and see how his family is doing. I'd like to thank Ashia, Sindhu, Sarun Raje. You guys have been big help. And the technical team, the MH Cockpit, CEO Mr. Suber, who encouraged me to organize everything here. Vignesh, and actually all of you. You attended in good numbers, and you hung around and you stuck around. In fact, if you have any questions, yeah, somebody has a question, I believe. Please ask. Or was it just finger trouble, like by mistake? Okay, doesn't matter. Even if you have a question afterwards, you can reach MH Cockpit and they can ask us, and we can probably get back to you about. Okay,